Hi guys, this is Scribbly again with another pen video, and today we are going to have a look at sort of the Pilot Vanishing Point / Capless series. Now, this is going to be more of an overview video, not so much of a review video. Before we hop into things, I would like to thank right here in the UK for supporting this video. I've been sent this black and gold capless / vanishing point here by right here in order to be able to make this comparative overview. Now, why a comparative overview? I have already reviewed the Pilot capless / vanishing point for the sake of this review, and since I'm based in Europe, I will call that pen from now on by its European name, which is Capless Vanishing Point is what it's called in the United States and maybe in some other countries. And then I also do have the smaller cousin, so to speak, of the Capless, which is the Pilot Décimo. And the Décimo, I will give the Décimo a separate own review at some point. Right here, I just wanted to do a maybe rather brief video and first of all compare those two vanishing points here, because they are, or capless, I said I call them capless, because they are somewhat different. And then I wanted to compare the capless to the Décimo, just for you to see the difference in between these pens. Now, first of all, they basically look the same at first glance. It's of course all retractable fountain pens. There are some differences that I will go into now in the video. They do cost the same. At right here in the UK, for instance, they both, or all three of them, cost around 170 euro. I'm not exactly sure why the thinner and lighter Décimo is exactly priced the same as the thicker and heavier capless, but they all do come with an 18 karat gold nib. Let's maybe have a look at those two capless here first. Now, I won't cover them in detail because, as said, they all have own reviews. But what I wanted to show you here is, first of all, some people, and I got a couple of requests or questions about that, whether I do like the matte finish better or whether I do like the glossy finish better and how they compare to each other, which is sort of why I decided to make such a comparative overview. And then there was, like, you know, there's always the debate between gold trim and silver trim. How does a gold on black look versus how does silver on black look? Of course, it is a matter of taste, and often gold is perceived as a little bit more flashy, while silver, but often also more classy, while silver is often perceived to be a little bit more muted. But first of all, let's have a look at the difference of those two capless here. And you see that that one here has this high glossy sort of piano lacquer black finish, whereas the black of the matte black capless here is a lot more muted, and of course also less prone to fingerprints, less prone to scratches being seen on the surface. Also, that front part here is matte, is not as shiny as that one here. The nibs on the gold one, the nib is gold, 18 karat gold nib. It's also 18 karat gold nib on the matte black, but it's rhodium plated, so it does look silver. We have a look at fine nibs here in both instances. If we retract the nibs and turn the pens around, we do see a difference in the logo here, at least in the color of the logo print. It does say Pilot Japan on both pens. But I think for those that were interested in the difference in finish and how different the finishes look, let me hold the pens like this a little bit. Let me angle them a little bit differently into the light so that you sort of get an idea of what that looks like. I personally do like both finishes very much. I also do find that the black and gold looks more classy. It's like sort of something for a, you know, maybe, you know, business meeting or something like that, a little bit more conservative businesses probably. I mean, it's always so much a matter of taste. Whereas this is like a just like, you know, stealthy finish, very muted. If somebody doesn't really know about pens, that pen here will probably not attract a lot of attention. It may even be mistaken for a ballpoint pen, you know, just a black ballpoint pen. Whereas I do think that that pen here sort of will attract more attention because the gold plating here is a very yellow gold plating. It's a really shiny gold, almost screaming, hey, look at me. It's I find it's a very classy, very beautiful pen, but it's of course more glossy and more shiny. All right, now as we had a look at that, let's look at the Décimo. I won't cover the pen in detail because I will do that as said in its separate review, but let me compare the Décimo to the Vanishing Point or to the Capless, just for you to see that. So as you see, and I'll take that golden one here because like they sort of have both have the same black piano lacquer high glossy finish kind of thing. On the back side they both say Pilot Japan. These double rings here where you screw the pen apart in order to take out the nib unit, and we'll have a look at that in a minute as well. You do have two rather broad rings here on the Capless, and then the lower ring here on the Décimo is almost as broad as the ring on the Capless, but then that upper ring here is about half the thickness, I would say. I don't know if you can see that like that already, but I think you should be able to see it or at least sense it. The Décimo is quite a bit thinner than the Capless. You can also see it here when we give that a front perspective. The mechanism is of course the same. The retractable nibs here, that works the same. That one doesn't want to come out here now. Right. It's the same nib units as well, so you can exchange. We have a medium nib here on the Décimo, also an 18 karat gold nib, rhodium plated. You can exchange those nib units, by the way, and I'll show you that in a minute. So if you have a Capless, maybe with a rhodium plated nib such as that one here, and you want to swap the nib out with your Décimo or vice versa, you can do that. We have a medium nib on here. That's what we are looking at. So as said, when you look at the pens from the front, you may sense that the Décimo is thinner in diameter. While it may not be, you see it, but it's not totally obvious. I mean, like, it's not a massive difference when you look at the pens, but when you hold the pens in hand, the difference is actually quite substantial. This is a pen that is quite a lot thinner than the Capless. The Capless does feel beefier, chunkier, girthier. So if you're into slim and slender pens, like let's say you're a Pelikan M200, M400 person, you may prefer the Décimo. If you are a Pelikan M600 or M800 person, you'll definitely want to have the Capless. Pretty sure about that. Let's see if there is a difference in length. I would say it's safe to say that they are pretty much the same in length. There is also no huge difference here at the tail end. But again, that sort of the difference you can quite see the difference in thickness or in diameter here at those tail end rings. And you also see that the button, that back button here, the push button that will retract the nib or extend the nib and retract the nib, is quite different in diameter. So that also sort of gives you an indication about the difference in diameter. Another difference is here at the clip. The clip on the Décimo is quite a bit thinner, doesn't have as much of a huge cutout than the one on the Capless. And while it's a stable pen, it does clip, it does definitely feel a Tension is about the same, but the clip on the vanishing point feels a lot more substantial than the one on the Décimo. The one on the Décimo feels a bit more fragile, not to the extent that you would be worried that it could break. Let's compare the clips here a little bit, but it does feel more fragile for sure. It's about the same from down here. The clip here is a lot more flat, while that one here is a bit more rounded. Let's compare the heads here. They're about the same. They're the same in length. The head of the Décimo is maybe even a tad longer, as you can see here. And that part here is more steep on the Capless than here on the Décimo, which probably is because the pen is thinner. Another quite big difference is the weight. The Décimo feels very, very, very lightweight. So if you don't like lightweight pens, then that may not be the pen for you. If you like lightweight pens, that may be the pen for you. The Capless feels a lot more substantial in hand as well. Let's look again at the difference. Let me put them on the table like this, maybe. Gives you maybe another perspective on things. And then just to show you that you can exchange the nib units. Of course, that one is a golden one, so it doesn't really match with the pen, but just to show you that you can actually do it. So this now is the nib unit that we just had in the Capless, and we put it in here, and we close the pen like that, and there we go. Now we have that golden nib unit in here. Doesn't look so bad actually, kind of cool. Maybe definitely something that you can play around with, right? And otherwise, as said, of course, the nib units are exactly the same. Difference just, of course, now here in nib that those two pens are equipped with. And to end this overview, another thing that I wanted to show you, just because I do have the luxury situation right here to have 3 pens with 2 different nibs. I wanted to show you, of course they do write fabulous, but I just wanted to show you, number one, the consistency in nibs, because with many pen manufacturers, nib width are fairly inconsistent. With Pilot, I have never really found a large inconsistency in between nib designations. So here we do have the 2 fine nibs. Of course, there may be a slight difference because they are also inked with different inks. That one here is Kaweco, the gray, what is it called? Smoky gray, I think. The black pen here is inked with a black ink, and that is a standard Pilot black cartridge in here. Those pens really write like a dream. So you do see, I hope, that the line width is really consistent. So 2 fine nibs, very consistent. But if you ponder about what nib width to take, something that I wanted to show you, if you sort of oscillate forth and back in between a medium and a fine, the medium, and this is it's an Ackermann blue. I don't remember what Ackermann blue is, but it's an Ackermann blue that I have in that pen here. The medium Capless nib is quite a bit, I mean, substantially broader than the fine. So it's not just like a little bit broader than the fine. Often with pen manufacturers, it's like that like there's really like, you know, smaller steps up in between nib grades. That medium here is really a medium. Almost, well, it's not a Western medium. It's still a Western fine. I have a a Lamy Safari here that has a fine nib on. You can compare that. So that's about that Pilot Medium here. I would say maybe the Pilot Medium is a bit wider than that Lamy Fine here. But what I really wanted to show you is the significant difference in between the Pilot Fine on the Capless / Décimo and the Medium. Well, sorry, that was the camera. I do hope that this overview of this pen series here was useful to you. I hope to at some point get my hands at a Fermo, which is another version of the Capless that has a twist mechanism back here that is quite thick and chunky. If I at some point get my hands on a Fermo, I'll try to do a very short, maybe 3, 4, 5 minute recap video where I throw in the Fermo as well, and then we can have a look at the difference between the Capless, the Décimo and the Fermo. But I do hope that that overview video was useful to you. I want to thank Right here in the UK again for supporting this review, or this overview rather, and I'll see you at the next review. Bye bye.